QR code and you can jump in there on that conversation and maybe say whether or not you think it's the best rivalry. There's a couple other ones I can
That's what I'm saying.
I'm excited.
I'm excited, too. We're 7 days away from Klay Thompson making another return to the Bay on Christmas Day. Our reporters Anthony Slater and Tim McMahon, they have a piece up right now on ESPN.com, and it reflects back on their breakup with Golden State, and they join the show now. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Slater, I want to start with you because you have been reporting on this story for over a year now. What do you think is the most important takeaway on the dissolving of that relationship?
Yeah, I'd even go back several years because I think the breakup started, probably the summer of 2023 when that extension doesn't get done. But I think that, a big takeaway would be that some of the frost of the breakup has thawed a little bit. And we all know, a lot of the ires about the business side from Klay's side towards management and ownership and not getting, his contract done. But Steph Curry and Draymond Green, we, as we reported, went to dinner last year. They played one game in Dallas. It was in February. They went over to his house. Steph said he got him and Draymond an Uber over there. And it was almost cathartic to have a night of, dinner, and they, Steph was on his putting green and they were playing chess. And by the end of the night, it just felt like, it was the next stage of accepting it. And that's been part of the thawing that we're talking about.
Yeah, you start the piece off with such a beautiful moment when Cannon Curry goes, Klay Thompson, in the hallway. And when Steph watches Klay now, he has to remind his young son, no, we're not teammates anymore. And I thought that was really poignant because the reality, Tim, is now Klay is on the Dallas Mavericks. And there's so much chatter about what direction this franchise is going to go and what's his future with Dallas. What's his mindset there?
Howdy, partners. Look, Klay Thompson came to Dallas to play for a contender, to start and get spoon-fed open threes by Luka Doncic. Obviously, none of those things are happening right now. None of those things are the reality of the situation. But Klay, honestly, is in a good state of mind right now. There were questions when they made the move to bring him off the bench earlier this season. How was Klay going to handle it? And honestly, it's been smooth. There's been no pouting. There's been no complaining. He's been a complete pro. And he said he hasn't felt like he's been chasing the ghosts of the past like he was in Golden State, especially that last year. And Klay understands, hey, he's in the twilight of his career, but he's embracing the opportunity to still contribute. He compared himself to Byron Scott during Kobe Bryant's rookie year. Like, he's embracing the opportunity to help Cooper Flagg as he starts what's going to be a long journey. So he's making the best of the situation. Now, if there was a chance for Klay to move to a contender, would he welcome it? I feel pretty strongly, yes, he would.
Well, could that contender maybe be the Golden State Warriors, right? They haven't looked like it for a large part of this season, Slater, but is a reunion still possible? Is that in the cards in the future?
I think eventually, but I would not expect it currently this season. I don't think anybody anticipates the Warriors, and from my conversation, shopping in the nostalgia aisle right now under his current contract at this current moment when there's urgency. But, Steph Curry compared, this situation a little bit to how Scottie Pippen's, end in Chicago was unceremonious, and his hope that maybe that can get healed. And I think about another player, Dwayne Wade. Remember how he had a bad breakup with the Heat, went to some other teams, and then did have kind of a final run in Miami. And I think that is possible, but I think we're talking maybe a year or two down the line. And the one thing I did learn in this piece is, Steph Curry would probably have to be the one pushing it because that's the voice that Klay will always listen to.
Well, there are a bunch of Golden State fans watching right now that all they heard was yes, eventually here, Anthony. So I appreciate you giving that piece of hope to that franchise because, as Draymond said, he always envisioned it being the three of them riding off into the sunset. Gentlemen, this piece was fantastic. It gave me all the feels. Thank you so much for penning it and for joining us. Now, Steph, Klay, and Draymond, they won 4 titles together, of course. That's tied with Tim Duncan, Manu Ginobili, Tony Parker for the most titles by an all-NBA trio over the last 50 seasons. And there was a lot in the story. I really encourage everyone to read it because, again, it's going to make you smile. But if you're Klay, would you want to go back to Golden State?
Yes. But after there's a circumstance, because one thing that has been clear through that phenomenal story is that he still wants to win and that he came to Dallas expecting to play with Luka and to pursue a championship, which we know Dallas was, they made it to the finals. So they were close and he wanted to be one of those pieces that sets them over the edge. So it may not obviously be Dallas. It might be elsewhere, but the final stop, I think it would be picturesque. And I know you were being all apolitical as someone who grew up in the Bay, but like I do think that's what the fans want, because in this story, it talks about how they see him playing. It's like, he's supposed to be with us.
Yeah.
They'll see him draw off with another team. It's like, who's not having
why
his
aren't they
back?
having his back?
Why are they having his back? And no matter what team he's on, he's so associated after winning 4 championships with the Warriors. I'm happy he still feels like he's got gas in the tank to pursue another one, but I hope at the end of the day, they bring it all back together.
I just want to see Klay this year on the playoff team, right? On the playoff team. I think us watching this Klay Thompson with the Dallas Mavericks, this role has been too big for him. That's not why they brought him in. They brought him in to play alongside Luka and Kyrie before Luka was traded. Now all of a sudden Kyrie goes out and then you have a young Cooper Flag. He has a bigger role. I like to see him go somewhere where he has a lesser role, where all his job is to be a spacer, right, and be able to help guys get over the hump. So that's what I would like to see short term for Klay Thompson.
What's the likelihood that Perk is going to see what he would like to see and the Mavericks are going to move on from Klay Thompson here?
Malika, Anthony Davis, Klay Thompson, Daniel Gafford, those are the players that the Mavericks will be exploring and taking trade calls on. And for Klay Thompson's perspective, he's been playing a lot better the last 15 games, shooting close to 40% from 3. And that helps that trade value because, from my understanding, as I reported last week, Klay Thompson wants to play for a title contender moving forward. The Mavericks were supposed to be that. Like Tim McMahon said, he was supposed to play with Luka Doncic, but also Kyrie Irving and get passes from these guys. That hasn't happened. This is a play-in tournament team. They're going to be wide open on the trade market.
And not to be ignored, as a part of the piece, he's found a little piece, right? Because I think part of the tension was in Golden State maybe having to go to the bench, but it seems like in the shift coming off the bench, he feels a little bit more comfortable. And it's a tough pill to swallow as a professional when you're an all-star, when you're a future Hall of Famer. So I do think that has helped take pressure off other teams looking to explore.
But this also really isn't the team that he came to play with without Luka Doncic and without Kyrie Irving. But Kyrie, he's still, making his presence felt here. Did you guys see this video from Mavs practice?
I did. Watch it.
So the robot comes to practice, and Kyrie just gives him a little bump there.
But it wasn't little, sis.
Blocker charge.
I think.
Warriors Nation, let's dive into one of the most exciting and emotional storylines of the NBA season, the possibility of Klay Thompson returning to the Golden State Warriors. This isn't just another rumor. This is about one of the greatest reunions in NBA history potentially unfolding right before our eyes. A reunion that could electrify this team and spark a turnaround in a season that's been anything but smooth. And the best part? This isn't fantasy. Credible NBA sources are now openly discussing it, and Steph Curry himself has acknowledged it could happen, even if it seems distant right now. Let's set the stage. Klay Thompson spent 13 historic seasons with the Warriors, from his rookie year through 2024, becoming one half of the legendary Splash Brothers alongside Steph Curry and helping Golden State secure 4 NBA championships. His departure to the Dallas Mavericks in the 2024 offseason marked the end of an era and left a void that this Warriors squad has struggled to fill consistently. Fast forward to today, Thompson, now with the Mavericks, has endured a tough stretch. A season that was supposed to be a title run with Dallas has devolved into uncertainty after the franchise shockingly traded Luka Doncic and watched key pieces struggle with injuries. According to recent reports, Dallas's new front office is expected to explore trade options involving Klay Thompson ahead of the February trade deadline, opening the door to real possibilities for his departure. But here's where it gets even more compelling for Warriors Nation. Steph Curry has publicly expressed he'd welcome Klay back if the opportunity ever arose. In interviews this week, Curry called the idea of a reunion unbelievable and said that of course he'd call Klay himself and tell him the Warriors want him back if that conversation ever comes up. That's not just talk, that's a future phone call that could change the trajectory of this season. Klay himself was careful with his words when asked about a return, saying, "I don't know," when pressed about the idea, acknowledging that there's a long way to go and a lot of basketball left to be played. But insiders close to Thompson have suggested that because Curry's voice carries so much weight with him, the possibility of a Warriors reunion remains realistic down the line. Now let's talk basketball impact. A Klay Thompson return, whether on a full contract or even a ceremonial one-day deal at the end of his career, would instantly inject veteran shooting, defensive poise and championship DNA back into this Warriors rotation. Curry is still averaging elite scoring, but the supporting cast around him has been unstable. Bringing Klay into that mix again doesn't just boost offense, it bolsters identity and cohesion, things the Warriors desperately need as they try to flip a middling season into a legitimate playoff push. And listen to this, the mere idea of a comeback has already reignited fans and media alike. ESPN insiders like Anthony Slater and Tim McMahon have talked about the topic at length, emphasizing that while a reunion might seem far off, nothing in sports ever materializes unless people are open to it. That's the beauty of this situation. Curry has left the door open, Klay's trade market is real, and the Mavericks situation creates opportunity. Imagine the Chase Center crowd when Klay's name is announced again in a Warriors jersey. Imagine Steve Kerr's rotation smoothing out with Thompson spacing. Imagine the threat it poses to opponents who now have to defend all three Splash Brothers again. This is not nostalgia. This is a strategic move that could elevate Golden State's chances at another deep playoff run. And that's why this matter deserves attention, not dismissal. So, Warriors Nation, here's the real question. Do you think the Warriors should pursue a reunion with Klay Thompson before the trade deadline? Would you welcome him back as a key rotational piece or a veteran enhancer for this squad? Do you believe that Curry's desire to play with Klay again could eventually push this deal through? Drop your opinion in the comments, hit that like button if you still believe in the Splash Brothers magic, and subscribe to Warriors Nation News for the latest updates, reactions, and insider trade developments as this thrilling NBA season unfolds.